Does anyone remember where I'm from? Yes.
Something mountain.
Something mountain, yeah, that's close enough. Balsam Mountain.
It says right
Which
there.
is, it says some right there, look at that. You guys are using your resources. So I'm from Balsam Mountain, and last week, what did we talk about? Yeah.
Fish and I don't know, but it's
Okay, so fish was one of them, absolutely.
and invertebrate.
What was the other one?
Invertebrate and invertebrate.
Yeah, invertebrates. So what's a vertebrate? What is a vertebrate?
Has spine.
It has a spine. What do you call something that does not have a spine?
Invertebrate.
An invertebrate, because it doesn't have a spine. That's all right. That is okay. So I'm glad you guys remember that. And before we get into the cool animal stuff, let's do a review, shall we? Who likes reviewing? Only some of us? Okay. Well, hopefully we'll all have fun with this. So do you guys remember these big sciencey words that we learned last time? Some of them, or at least you're familiar. So these big three sciencey words are some of the important ones that we have to remember for our lessons together. So we're going to break them down into parts. Ecosystem. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
It breaks down into eco and system. What does eco mean? What does eco mean?
I think that it might mean like I forgot what it was.
You forgot? That's okay. What do you think?
Earth.
Earth, nature, the environment. Yes, exactly right. What about system? What's system?
It's like a place, it's like a certain place where like animals live.
That's an ecosystem. Exactly right. It is nature and the environment doing what with each other? Yeah.
I forgot.
That's okay. Working together. It's just things in the environment working together. That is an ecosystem. And ecosystems have living and non-living things, right? What are some living things you might find in an ecosystem? Yeah?
Maybe.
Us?
Yeah.
We might be in an
snails.
ecosystem. Snails. So little invertebrates. What are some other living things?
Fish.
Fish. Exactly. Do you have another one? Or is fish yours? Dogs, sure. Other mammals as well. What else?
Cockroach.
Cockroaches. So we've got animals. Ecosystems include animals. They also include plants, right? Trees, grass, bushes, flowers.
Armadillo.
Armadillos are animals, but I would love to see a plant armadillo. Axolotl, sure. And fungus. Is fungus a plant?
No.
No. Is fungus an animal?
No.
It's
Yes.
its own
Yes.
thing. But is it alive?
Yes.
Yes. So ecosystems have living things and they have non-living things. What are some non-living things in an ecosystem?
A notebook.
A notebook. Other man-made items, yes?
Rock.
Rocks, absolutely. Man-made or woman-made. Person, human-made. There we go. Yeah?
Water.
Water, absolutely. What's another one?
Dirt.
Dirt. Now there's lots of living things in dirt, but dirt itself is not alive. What about air? Is that part of an ecosystem? Yeah, we breathe it. It's required. Things fly in it. What about light? Is light part of an ecosystem?
No, yes.
Yes.
Because it comes from the sun.
Because it interacts with everything else. Plants use it to grow, we use it to see, and things also use it to keep warm as heat. So ecosystems are made of non-living and living things. And when we talk about living things, we talk about biodiversity. What does biodiversity mean? What are the parts? Bio and diversity. What do either of those parts mean? Do you remember? It's been a while, I know. Yes.
Bio means life.
Yeah, exactly right. Living things, life. What about diversity? What does diversity mean? Go ahead again, my kid. Diversity. What is it? It's okay, it's a hard one. Multi or different.
Living thing.
Different living things, yeah. So biodiversity is just different kinds of living things. So what would happen in an ecosystem if you only had one kind of butterfly? You would run the risk of that butterfly going extinct, and the whole ecosystem would do what?
Crash.
Yeah. And so living things have to adapt to their environment. What is an adaptation? Go ahead.
It is something to where the animals can adapt, as in change for that environment.
Yeah, an adaptation is any body part or behavior that helps an animal survive in its environment. Exactly right. So, us as humans, what are some adaptations do we have to be humans? What's one of them?
Legs.
Legs. We've only got 2 legs. What happened to our other 2 legs?
They were animals.
They turned into hands, so we can grab things. What else is another human adaptation?
Spacesuits.
Spacesuits. Yeah, we can build clothes and construct things that are incredibly intricate and detailed to keep us alive.
So you can go to space.
So also, we can go to space. We are the only ones that go to space. Anything else that goes to space goes there because we took it. What about what I'm doing right now to you guys? What am I doing with my mouth?
Talking.
Talking. Other animals communicate with each other using their vocalizations, but humans have incredibly complex languages. And so these are all different adaptations to help us survive, help us build, help us work together. And so, if you remember last time we met, we talked about these 5 Bs. Well, the animals we're going to meet today and learn about today are amphibians and reptiles. And while we learn about them, I want you to please keep in mind these 5 Bs. So what are they? We've got body, which means what? Body covering. What else do we have?
Snake. Oh.
I don't
You're okay, blood. So body means body covering. Blood means blood temperature, whether they're warm-blooded or cold-blooded. Breathing, how do they get oxygen? Bones, if they have any. What kinds do they have? And babies, how do they reproduce? So just like last time, as you can see on either of these tables, I have got some cool biofacts or stuff to show you. Do you have any questions before we diverse these biofacts? Yes. Well, we can get to them in just a minute, but I want you to explore the biofacts and try and figure that out for yourself.
No touching, right?
Yeah, so you can touch the stuff, but if it's in a box, should you open that box?
No.
If you pick something up, how many hands should you use?
2.
All of your hands, both of them.
Oh.
But you can't touch the stuff. Most of it is real. Any other questions before we begin? Yes.
Is that snakeskin?
Yes. It's all real.
Oh my
All right, before you move on, let me section you off. So let me count you.
And mine's not.
We're not leaving each other.
You guys are gonna be
Okay.
each other.
Don't move just yet. You guys are going to start with the amphibians. Don't move. Don't move. Don't move. Don't move. Sit down. You guys are going to start with reptiles. Don't move. But remember, just like last time, I have sit down. Sit down. I have critters with me. So what level should our voices be? 0. 0 or maybe a 1. Like just talking to each other. Guys, start now. Do you hear how loud I am right now? Quieter than that. You may go. So, of these 2 tables, let's start with amphibians. So did you try and keep in mind the 5 Bs while you were looking at these tables? You did? What did you think of the 5 Bs for amphibians? Which one do you want to start with?
For the blood, I thought it was cold.
Okay, you think they're cold-blooded? Raise your hand if you think amphibians are cold-blooded. Raise your hand if you think they're warm-blooded. So you are right there, cold-blooded. So what does that mean for the amphibians?
They cannot predict their own heat.
They cannot produce their own heat. Exactly right. Now that word cold-blooded is a little confusing because most people think if it's cold-blooded it likes to be in cold places or it's always cold to the touch. And that's not quite accurate. So we use a different word that's a little bit more descriptive. Do you remember the word? Ectothermic. You're right. I'm so glad you remember that. They are ectothermic. Thermic just means heat. Ecto means from outside or inside.
Outside.
So are we ectothermic?
No.
Yes.
We are endothermic. We're going to learn that one next week a little bit more. Yeah. What about bones? Do amphibians have bones? Do they?
I don't
You saw a skeleton over there, didn't you? Yeah. They have backbones. And do they all have backbones?
No.
Yes.
They
They do. Even if they're really, really tiny small, they just have really, really tiny small backbones. So are they vertebrates or invertebrates?
Vertebrates.
Vertebrates. They do have that backbone. What about body? What covers the body of an amphibian? What covers their body?
Like this texture of skin that's like all slimy.
Yeah, they've got slimy skin.
Scales.
Why do they have slimy skin? Does anyone want to guess? Do you remember why fish had slimy skin or slimy scales?
So
Do you remember why?
they can swim.
So they can swim faster. But amphibians are a little different than that. They can swim, but they're not slimy for that reason. Why do you think?
I think so they can slip out of things really easily.
So they can slip out of things? That's a good guess.
Take predators.
Any other guesses? What do you think?
Keep their bodies moist or something.
No, that's exactly it. So their skin stays moist. Amphibians have to stay moist because they have a little bit of a superpower. Amphibians can breathe through their skin.
I didn't.
Wouldn't that be wonderful if you could just like go swimming and the only thing you have to do to breathe was like stick your arm up and then you're good to go?
Yeah.
They can also drink through their skin. Wouldn't that be nice? Being able to just put your hand in a puddle and have a sip?
Yeah.
I think that would be really nice. Unfortunately, we cannot, but amphibians can. They have skin that has to stay moist because they breathe through it. Exactly right. Now, what about their babies? How do they have babies? Go ahead.
It's like this little thing. Like it's near their thing.
No, you're good. I get where you're going.
It's not a thing.
It's near their thing and they do the thing with it?
So there's something like at the back of their body, and it like gives birth.
Yeah, they lay eggs through it, indeed. But what are those eggs like? Are they hard like a chicken egg?
No.
Are they absolutely
They're little
tiny?
squishy eggs.
I feel like
The bouncy
That is pretty big.
We're very fragile.
That's exactly right. Did you guys hear what they said?
No.
Say it again.
It's like an orby.
It's like an orby with a little baby on the inside. I also like to call them gushers.
Just don't squish it.
Yeah, don't squish it.
I'll squish it.
But they are squishy eggs. They do not have a shell. Therefore, they must be laid in the water. Even if the amphibian himself lives on land, he has to go to water. Or if it's a girl, she has to go to water to lay those eggs. Do you have a question?
Not a question, but I have something that kind of relates with that.
Okay.
Whenever I was at my old school, we had this like huge, it was like pavement, and
Uh-huh.
it rained really hard, and so water was there and stuff, and it was there for a long time.
Yeah.
And then we had a little frog, and we named it Gerald.
Uh-huh.
But then we found out that was a girl because
It was
laid-
Geraldine.
and then it laid eggs.
Yeah.
And so everybody, for a science experiment, we took a handful and we took it into our classroom and seen how long it took.
Were you able to hatch them?
Mm-hmm.
That is such a cool science experiment. So Geraldine definitely helped you guys learn about that. But if you saw them be raised, you might be able to answer this question. How do they breathe? How do they breathe?
Like sometimes they have gills.
Sometimes they have gills. Sometimes they breathe through their skin like we talked about. And sometimes they have lungs like we do. Now amphibians do this very special thing. They undergo metamorphosis. Have you guys heard that word before?
No, but yeah.
Metamorphosis. Say it for me.
Metamorphosis.
And metamorphosis is quite simply a drastic change in your body as you go from a baby to an adult. So imagine for me, a human. Do humans go through metamorphosis?
Yes.
You may think so because we change. You look at an adult, you look at a baby, and you say they look nothing alike. But imagine for me a baby. How many arms does that baby have?
Two.
Then that baby grows up. How many arms does that adult have? Two. What about if that baby is born with 2 legs? Right? How many does it have as an adult?
Two. It depends.
If it's born, unless something happens to them, they will probably have those 2 legs. What about their fingers? If they're born with 10 and nothing bad happens to them, what's going to happen? How many are they going to have as an adult?
10.
They're not going to grow an 11th one, right?
Yeah, they may be.
No, they might chop one off, but they're not going to grow a new finger. The babies generally look the same as adults. Now imagine a tadpole for me. How many legs does a tadpole have?
0.
None.
Wait.
How many legs does an adult frog have?
4. 4.
What about a tail? Do baby tadpoles have tails?
Yes.
Do adult frogs have tails?
No.
Baby tadpoles have gills. Do adult frogs have gills?
No.
So metamorphosis is that incredibly drastic change in their body from babies to adults. Humans, we just kind of grow and change shape a little bit. We still have the same number of limbs.
Yes.
Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Now, I have for you a critter. Would you like to meet this critter?
Yes.
So remember, please keep your voices off. This critter I have is an old girl. She's 7 years old. So she's been with us for a long time, so we need to keep her happy. She's my friend, Toad. So this is Toad, and she is a toad, and she's 7 years old. Now, Toad here is a native species. She's a American toad. When I say she's a native species, what does that mean? What does it mean when I say she's a native species? Do you know?
I have a question.
Oh, what's your question?
We used to actually not have any limbs because we actually evolved to humans. We used to be fish.
But you were never born a fish. You were born a human. Millions and millions of years ago was a different story.
Yes.
But within a single lifetime, you didn't change that much. You just got bigger. So you did not go through metamorphosis. Over millions and millions of years, that change is called evolution. And that's a little different because it doesn't involve an individual, it involves a species. Metamorphosis is involving the individual. Good question though, I really like that sidebar. Yes?
Why did toads have bumpy stuff?
Why do toads have bumpy skin? That's a great question. Have you guys ever heard the saying or the myth that if you touch a toad, you'll get warts?
Yes.
Is that true?
I already have some.
You already had some. Yeah, you didn't have to touch a toad to get those.
No. Yeah,
So that is a myth. You are not actually going to get warts from a toad, whether they pee on you or whether they just touch you. It doesn't happen. If you get warts after touching a toad, that's because you had warts to begin with. They just hadn't shown up yet. Toads have bumpy skin. That's a great question. Toads have bumpy skin because they often live on land. And that is the main difference between frogs and toads. Frogs live in water, toads live on land. And so the bumps help them blend in with the dirt. Have you ever looked at dirt and it looks a little bit bumpy?
Yes.
She looks a little bit bumpy too. She's trying to look like dirt. Now, as you see on the back of her head here, she's got these little coffee bean looking things. They look like kidney beans as well. Those are actually poison glands. And so on her skin, she's got a very light poison that isn't going to kill you or hurt you as a human. But if a smaller animal ate her, they would get sick. So why do you think that those poison glands, are a good adaptation for her if she dies anyway? Why is that a good adaptation? What do you think? She can't spray it. For her, but she's already been eaten. For her friends?
Yeah.
Yes. So that, if you imagine like a fox eats her riptoad, they eat her and then get sick. They will learn that this thing makes me sick. Am I ever going to eat that thing again? No. So if I come across another toad, that toad's going to be safe because that fox has learned. Do you have a question?
Question, has she ever got pregnant?
Good question. So she has not. Miss Toad, she came to us as a tadpole. We actually took her from a pond and raised her. So she has lived with us her entire life, and she is a chronic bachelorette. She lives alone. She doesn't have any boyfriends or anything. So she doesn't have any babies, but we got to see her whole lifespan. And she's only 7. Hopefully she'll live for another 15 more years. So that was Toad. Now let's talk about reptiles really quickly.
Okay.
Do you have a reptile? Please leave it be. Let's talk about reptiles. Oh, do you remember? Oh, good question. Do frogs and toads shed their skin? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yes, they do.
Because if they do, they eat their skin.
They do. Yeah, some reptiles do this too. But as they shed their skin, they will eat it. And so if you ever watch a video, it's really cool. It looks like she's just like eating the blood off of her hand. It's really gross, but really good. All right, we're going to move on to reptiles before we run out of time.
She's trying to get out.
She is crazy. Try to ignore her as much as you can. Reptiles. What are these 5 B's for reptiles? What are reptile bodies covered in?
They're covered in scales.
Now, are their scales wet like a fish or dry?
They can be both.
Dry.
Can they?
Yes.
They're mostly dry though.
They cannot.
They are dry. Now a snake can be wet. If a snake is underwater, it's gonna be
Well,
wet.
if it's a water snake.
But if you take it out of the water, it'll dry off just like we do.
Yes.
They have dry scales. Now, the reason they have dry scales is because they have to retain water. They evolved in a very dry environment, and so they have to be very good at keeping as much water as they can. What about their blood? Are they warm-blooded or cold-blooded?
Cold-blooded.
Raise your hand for
Wait,
cold-blooded. Raise your hand for cold-blooded.
What you just
They are cold-blooded. They are cold-blooded. What is the sciencey word for cold-blooded?
Ectothermic.
Ectothermic. Exactly right, which means their heat is coming from outside of their body. They do not produce their own body heat. What about breathing? How do snakes breathe? Or other reptiles, not just snakes. How do reptiles breathe? Yes.
Through their ears. Or where that wet like right here.
Oh, you're talking about gills. That's where gills usually are on things. But no,
Ears.
reptiles do not breathe through their gills.
They
What
are
do they use?
nose.
Don't they breathe through their skin?
They don't. So because their dry scales are really good at retaining moisture, they're also really good at not letting anything else through, including oxygen. So I like the thought process, but no, alas, they breathe through lungs, just like we do. Can you guys use your lungs right now? So they breathe with their lungs. What about their bones?
Stop.
Do reptiles have bones?
Yes.
I
Sometimes.
saw a bunch of them over here.
Sometimes.
Which one's no?
Okay, a fish don't.
Well, fish is not a reptile.
I mean,
But they do, remember
a
they're
lizard.
vertebrates. A lizard does, they have a backbone. And snakes do as well. Let me see what I can grab next.
I give up.
Here's a snake skeleton.
Yeah. It's so cool.
Snakes have backbones too. All reptiles do. And turtles' backbone is their shell. It's just their shell and the ribs fused together to create a... All right, what about their babies? How do they reproduce? How do reptiles reproduce? All right, so yes, they do have eggs. Now, are those like Orbeez, like an amphibian's eggs?
No.
No. Are they hard like chicken eggs?
No.
No, they're somewhere in the middle. They are leathery. And we're going to do an experiment together. I want you guys to puff up your cheeks. Now, without letting any air out. Poke them. You feel how it's kind of squishy but kind of firm at the same time? That is what reptile eggs feel like. They're a little bit leathery. Now, with the remaining few minutes, you can let the air on out. With the remaining few minutes, unless we have any questions, I would like to introduce to you my second friend today.
Is it a snake? Is it a snake?
It's an actual.
It's a snake.
It is a reptile. Her name is Elsie,
Is it a comedian dragon?
a comedian dragon. I like to think of myself as a comedian dragon.
It's a snake.
Okay, so, guys, listen closely. No drum roll. I would never ever bring an animal that could hurt you. So is there any reason for you to run away?
No.
Is there any reason for you to get up at all?
No.
Is there any reason for you to scream and freak out?
No. Wait,
Are you in any danger?
No.
And unfortunately, you are not going to touch this animal. So do you have to worry about germs?
No.
So this animal I would like you to meet. Her name is Elsie, and she is completely harmless, but she doesn't want you to know that. She wants you to think she's dangerous.
It's a snake. My mom would die. She hates it.
Now, I want your attention. Why do I know that she wants us to think she's venomous? What do you think?
Because of the stripes.
Because of her stripes. What does she look like?
She looks like a poisonous snake.
She looks like a venomous.
Yes, it's a venomous snake.
She looks like a coral snake. Now, there's a saying. Have you guys ever heard the rhyme for coral snakes and not coral snakes? What is it?
It's red and yellow, dangerous fellow. Red and black, you're safe, Jack.
Sure, yeah. And so her red is next to her black, so she's fine. However, that rhyme only works in the United States. Please do not be going to South America with that rhyme thinking you'll be safe, because some snakes look just like her, but they are dead. So she is mimicking a coral snake. She is not venomous. She is a constrictor, and she is really silly. I love her. So Elsie here, she is a milk snake, which is a non-venomous snake and one of the mimics of a coral snake. Now, a lot of people say that a venomous snake will have an arrowhead-shaped head, right? Have you heard that before?
No, that's wrong. That's wrong.
That's wrong. She has more of an arrow-shaped head than a coral snake. Coral snakes look even less arrow-shaped than hers. Oh, all right, there, baby girl. She's not used to being handled. She's been kind of out this way for a while. So that is a myth. And some people say if it's got cat-like eyes, it's venomous. Is that accurate?
All snakes
No.
basically have
No. A lot of snakes have cat-like eyes and they're non-venomous, like a python or a boa. And so the best way to know if a snake is venomous or not
or corn snakes.
is to know your snakes. Please don't touch a snake. If you're not 10,000% sure you know what it is, please do not try and pick it up. Now, is there any such thing as a bad snake?
No.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as
Just
a
a
bad
fence.
snake. Just a scared snake. A lot of people think that copperhead or another venomous snake is a bad snake. Have you guys heard that before?
Yeah.
They say the only good snake is a dead snake. Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
Well, the only bad snake is
Is a
a
python.
scared snake. And the only good snake is a left alone one. You can absolutely guarantee you will never get bit by a snake if you leave it alone. If it's in your house, should you kill it?
No.
No, because you have a reason that there's a snake in your house. If you have a snake in your house, that's because you have snake food in your house. What's a snake food?
Rat.
Rats and mice. So a way to get rid of the snake is to get rid of the snake food. And a way to remove the snake kindly is to take a bucket, put the bucket on top of it, and slide a piece of cardboard underneath like you do for spiders. Right? Or call someone and they'll take you out. Or take him out for you. Now, do you guys have any questions on Elsie? Yes?
How old is so cute?
Good question. How old is Elsie? Elsie is about 15 years old. Yes. So she's kind of an older gal. They like to be in their mid to late 20s, but we're just guessing at 15. She came to us as an adult. She was somebody's pet once upon a time, and they were no longer able to take care of her, and so they gave her to us to look after and use for educational programming like this. Now, she's kind of an old gal, and snakes can get pretty old. Snakes usually live to be in their 20s. So hopefully we'll have her for quite a long while yet, but I have a feeling she's older than 15. Yes.
Okay, I have two.
Okay, let's do one for now. I'll come back.
So, is a milk snake and a corn snake basically the same thing?
Good question. It's a milk snake and a corn snake, basically the same thing. They are different species, so they're genetically different, but they do a lot of the same things. They like to eat mice in human-populated places. So milk snakes get their name because they were often found in barns near cows. Now, they got the name because the myth says that they were sucking milk from the cow's udder, right? But why do you think they were actually in the cow's barn? Yeah.
Probably because of rats.
Because the cow food brought rats, and so they were eating their rats, exactly right. And rat snakes and corn snakes do the same thing, but they are still different species technically.
So
Good
is
question.
the milk one nicer? Or are they both like the same?
Oh, are they nicer?
Yeah.
So that absolutely depends on the individual.
I thought you milked that snake. I would put the bait on my nose.
Oh, you thought they were called milk snakes because you can milk them? Well, ironically, you can.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of milking a snake?
No.
Yeah.
So if you take a venomous
Yeah.
snake and you make it like bite a cup with a bit of foil,
Yeah, the venom.
they will release their
That's why
venom.
it's so expensive since it's so hard.
And it's called milking the snake, which is weird because it's not milk, it's venom. But they use that venom for a lot of things,
But
including
and-
anti-venom.
Drink it.
Now, you can't milk a non-venomous snake because they don't have venom glands. And so that's not where they get the name from. But that is very interesting. I really like that thought process. Yes?
So are the snakes really powerful because strong because whenever they move off to the side they'll go like this, they'll stay.
Yeah, so they have very, very well-controlled muscles. They are all muscle. Now, are they strong? It depends on the snake. Some snakes, like her, only eat small things, so we wouldn't consider her strong because we can overpower her quite easily. But a big snake, like a boa or a python, we might consider them strong because they have more muscles, they eat bigger things, And sometimes, especially if it's a big boa, it's
They're
hard
also-
for us to overcome.
They're also constricted.
So it's very subjective. It depends. All right, time for 3 more questions.
Something.
But rattlesnakes and many other snakes rattle their tail. In fact, when she's really angry with me, she'll sometimes rattle her tail.
Why would she be angry?
Well, she's just spicy like that. She doesn't like to be woken up, so she gets grumpy. But sometimes when she's grumpy, she'll rattle her tail like a rattlesnake. And it doesn't hurt anyone. It's just to kind of scare off predators or threats or people waking her up. Good. I wonder what you're thinking of, though. I'll try to look this up. Yes.
Has she ever had eggs?
She has not. So again, just like Miss Toad, she has been in captivity her whole life.
Where?
And she has been living alone. So she has no babies. She's single, not ready to mingle. She doesn't really like other snakes. So her eggs come out at the base of her tail. How far up is her tail? How many of these bands do you think her tail has? How many of these bands do you think her tail has? What do you think?
I think maybe 10.
You think 10 of these bands? What do you think? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How much more do you think is that? What do you think?
They get the in, and how does the snake do?
They poop and they lay their eggs in the same place. And her tail is only this much of her. This little cloaca hole right here. It's her little butt rear end. That's where she poops and she lays her eggs. Yeah. Snakes are weird. I love them. All right, one more question. Yes.
How do they move? Like, how do
They move with muscles. Now, she's not a very good example of this because she is relatively small, but I recommend that when you get home, you go on YouTube and you look up a video of snakes slithering and watch these belly scales very closely. She has different kinds of belly scales than she does on her back. They're long and thin instead of scale shaped, and that helps them kind of grab the ground and move it. So they kind of inch almost. But we are running up at the end of our time. Do we have any last minute questions for Elsie? Yes.
Like when they're babies, do their parents stay with them and then like when they grow up, do they leave?
Good question. Let me put her away really quick and I'll answer it. When they're babies, do their parents stay with them? The answer is no. Really, no reptiles will take care of their babies, except for a few differences. What are some reptiles that do take care of their babies that you can think of? Yeah. Crocodiles and alligators. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Other reptiles will just lay their eggs and then run away.
Like,
Is it
don't
kind
like seals and stuff, their parents just leave them?
Well, seals aren't reptiles, but
Is it kind of
I
like
think
how
so.
sharks
Yeah.
just lay their eggs when their kids are born, these kids just go away?
Oh yeah, well snakes, they just kind of lay their eggs and then just carry on with their lives. They forget they even had them. Good question. All right, that is everything I have for you guys. I'm sorry. Next week you are going to see me again on Thursday, and we are going to talk about birds and mammals. And I will be bringing a bird and mammal. So I'm excited for that.